Welcome to Word Up Rock and Roll Stories with Mike B. In-depth conversations with the world's best singers and musicians. Sponsored by the Waterloo Music Bar, Blackpool. Small venue, massive attitude.
We would have, but I had a trip to China that I had to do. I walked in.
China?
Of course I.
Shane just said you've just come back from Japan, and I said I didn't know that. So
Yeah,
was it China?
It was China.
Doug started playing and recording in smaller bands in the early 80s. He then received his big break in 2001 when Ronnie James Dio asked Doug for the second time to join his band Dio. This led to Doug joining the legendary Whitesnake and staying with them for 12 years. I caught up with Doug at the Waterloo Music Bar, Blackpool. The Waterloo is one of the best rock and punk venues in the UK. They have some amazing acts playing there almost every night of the week, so check them out on social media and their own website www.waterloomusicbar.com. Then if you are around the northwest of England, go along and check them out.
Thank you very much for taking the time out to have a chat with me and appearing in episode 3 of the podcast. It's called Word Up Rock and Roll Stories.
Very
so
cool.
basically we're just going to have a chat about your life story.
Cool.
So go right back to the beginning. Where did you call home? Was it North Carolina?
No, I was just born in North
You were born
Carolina,
in North Carolina.
down south, and then we moved around a bit. I lived in Pennsylvania, Maryland, near Washington D.C., and then we went back to Pennsylvania. That's kind of where I went through that's when I got serious about playing guitar,
Right.
and went to high school there. But I was only there for 4 years, and then after that I got out to West Coast.
Yeah, moved up to LA.
Yeah.
When you were young, did you grow up in a musical household? Were your parents into music? Your siblings?
My sisters both were into music. They both had record players. I didn't have one yet. My younger sister had stuff like Queen and Kiss. My older sister had Jeff Beck and Stevie Wonder and some. It was interesting that going into
So
their
you
rooms
grew
and
up
listening
through
to
your sister's taste in music.
in the beginning, yeah, and then I was totally into Zeppelin and Aerosmith and Deep Purple and that stuff,
Yeah.
Hendrix. But the first time I actually listened to a record with headphones, I think it was Jeff Beck, Blow by Blow,
Yeah.
on my sister's stereo.
And did that change your life?
Yeah,
in
man,
some kind
I
of way.
still remember the feeling. I mean, it gave me goosebumps hearing the guitar, what it sounded like, and you could something that people don't really talk about that much. But that when Jeff Beck plays guitar, you don't need a singer. It's enough.
It makes the guitar sing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And what about buying records yourself? Was there a local record store that you could get to, or did you have to import them in?
the very first record I bought was so I could join a gang of guys. There was a gang, a little gang of guys in Rockville, Maryland. I lived, and they had a tree house and they'd hang out and whatever kids do,
Yeah. Just think the film Stand By Me. It's exactly
exactly.
the same,
Yeah. And so I bought the first record was they said if you buy Iron Man by Black Sabbath, then you can join the gang.
Yeah.
So I donated that to join the gang. Iron Man with an Electric Funeral was on the B side.
Yeah.
And I remember telling my mom, we got to go to the record store. I got to get this record. It's very important. She drove me. And then later, when after my sisters had record players and stuff, I got one. And I think the first record I got was Led Zeppelin 2. And that was a life changer as well.
Mm. So
and then moved
pretty
on
cool
to
taste in music right from the start then.
Well, that's what was happening. I mean, stuff like Zeppelin 2 was already out. I think by that time they might have already put out Zeppelin 4 by that time, because I might have heard Stairway to Heaven. I can't remember. But Zeppelin 2 was the one that I got first. It had a whole lot of love on it. Maybe that's why.
Yeah.
And loved that. And then little by little, through friends, I discovered other bands. I didn't really have any way to discover who, I didn't know if there was, I don't remember if there was a hard rock station or anything, but there was a pop radio station, and they'd play stuff like Stevie Wonder or Hall & Oates, stuff like that. They played Peter Frampton on the radio, Hendrix. They played like Hey Joe or Purple Haze. Yeah. I think they played Smoke on the Water. Like the commercial songs of all those bands. Yeah. And then later, through friends, I got into Aerosmith and Van Halen and blah, 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 blah. UFO and Deep Purple and Rainbow, Sabbath and Allman Brothers. Actually, my older sister had a friend, her boyfriend was into Allman Brothers, so that was kind of a little early on. Yeah. And Ramblin' Man from Allman Brothers was on the radio. I remember that.
So was other southern rock groups an influence on you? Because you have got quite a bluesy tone to
I did love
your guitar playing.
I did love the southern rock. I loved Skynyrd and Allman Brothers, and then there was other bands like Charlie Daniels Band and Molly Hatchet, 38 Special. But the kings of it for me were probably Allman Brothers and Skynyrd.
Yeah, cool. What were you like at school? How many schools did you go to? You say you moved around quite a bit.
I went to a lot. I went to I don't remember previous to this, but I remember being in elementary school, and it was called Carderock Springs. It was in Maryland, Rockville, Maryland, I think. And then later, after that, I went to an all-boys private school called Bullis. Now I think it's co-ed, but at the time it was Bullis School for Boys. And it was awesome, man. It was like, it was the best food you'd ever get at school. I mean, like handmade everything and home cooked everything, and the sporting programs was really good. I was into a lot of sports and stuff.
Like what kind of sports?
Baseball. I was actually at Bullis. I was running cross country, and for some reason I liked it. I don't know. I guess it's something that is kind of random, but cross country running. But I played football and baseball and basketball.
An all-rounder.
Yeah, I didn't. I played soccer a little bit, but soccer wasn't so big.
Not back then. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It's grown in popularity in the States a lot more in recent
absolutely.
Years.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah,
huge now.
Excellent. What about academically? Were you a clever kid or?
I mean,
average.
You guys know I'm not. I did okay. I think I would be considered an underachiever at school. I was bored. I was a little bored by it, and I really, once I got into music, I really was so excited about music that everything else took a backseat.
Yeah.
So I didn't do as well as I wished I should have or could have. I'm sure I could have had I applied myself. I could have done a lot better.
Although you haven't done too bad out of it.
No, I've been very lucky. That's why. I mean, luck is the key to everything in music business.
Yeah, true. Can you remember when you picked up your first guitar?
Yeah, it was a summer, and I think it was '74, and my sister had a classical guitar, and the reason I picked it up was my little sister had a classical guitar and a book with chords and how to play. And the reason I picked it up was because all my friends had gone away for summer vacation. There was nothing going on. I didn't really want to go out of the house that much because I didn't have anybody to go with. So I got that guitar and that book and started playing, a D chord and it should A chord like this, an E chord. And it took a while, but it was a classical guitar with nylon strings, and it broke my finger. Yeah. It broke my fingers in. I got even on nylon strings, it was like there was pain involved in the beginning, and that's where it started. And then I eventually got an electric guitar. My mom got me a department store guitar. It was a very cheap guitar called Sears.
Oh yeah.
And it was a little amp about this big, and I made a band with some guys in the neighborhood, and we started playing. We were called Purple Haze was the name of the band, and we did we just jammed for hours on stuff like Smoke on the Water or there was an Allman Brothers song, "Memory of Elizabeth Reed." We'd play that for forever, just like 2 chords.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun. And eventually, little by little, learning, I started to get better.
Can you remember your first ever gig? Was it with that band?
No, it was later. It was when I got to Philadelphia area. There was a train. It's called the Main Line. The train that runs through Philadelphia.
Right.
There's a train called the Main Line, and I used to take that train down to downtown Philadelphia. And I met some people from the paper or on the wall or something. You know how people used to write their names on the wall and put a little tab?
Yeah.
I found some people, and we made a band. It was called Medusa. It was with a girl singer. Her name was Becky. And then our first gig was in a church. I remember that. And I invited some friends to come. And, they...
Were they just rock covers?
Yeah, it was stuff like, everything from Hendrix to Fleetwood Mac, Eddie Money. I remember we played 2 Tickets to Paradise by Eddie Money. We played Purple Haze. We played Don't Stop by Fleetwood Mac, the newer version of Fleetwood Mac. Yeah. And I don't remember any more than that. But that was the first gig.
You do well to remember that, though.
Yeah.
All the gigs that you played in your life.
I was the rhythm guitar player. There was I forget his name, but he played lead guitar and he was really good. And so I was just plunking around on rhythm guitar. But by that time, I remember I had gotten a proper guitar.
So it was just a copy that you had before that?
Yeah, the first guitar was a Sears copy of a Les Paul. It was it was a Sunburst, kind of like a Jimmy Page thing. Yeah. And my sister's boyfriend had a Les Paul, a real one. And he said, "I'm going to sell it. Do you want it?" And it was $300. And I said, "What color is it?" And he said, "It's a gold top." Now, I thought a gold top was what I had, was the Jimmy Page. I thought
was a gold top.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So I saved, I earned about $100, $150, and then my parents gave me the rest. And I can't remember if I ever paid it back or not, but I showed up and got the guitar, and I remember opening the case and looking at the headstock, and it says Gibson. Okay, cool. And I looked down and it's gold, and I thought, "What color is this?" He goes, "It's a gold top. It's just like what Dickie Betts plays." I'm like, "Oh, I thought that a gold top was the other thing." And I thought it was kind of an ugly color, right, compared to what Page played. But I was like, "I want it. It's a Gibson."
Yeah.
And so I got it, and it's turned out to be my favorite color ever. I've gone through a lot of different guitars in my life, and always revert back to that guitar as being like the one.
Do you still own that guitar?
No, I butchered that guitar. Yeah, I
on stage.
I did it at home. It was a gold top deluxe 73, and I took out the smaller pickups and I took a drill and made room for bigger pickups and bolted bigger ones in, and then I got it refretted and changed the keys and changed some parts and stuff, so it was not anywhere near original.
Right.
And then when Van Halen came out, I really wanted to get a tremolo, so I got a Strat.
So all this was before like 78 when Van Halen came out?
Yeah.
This
was 3 or 4 or 5 years, whatever, before. But it was probably 5 or 6 years, because I didn't know about Van Halen in the beginning.
Right.
I went to see them in 1979, and I didn't even know who we were seeing. I was like, who's coming today? And then my buddy goes, Van Halen. I'm like, weird name, strange name for a band. I'm thinking of bands like Rush and Led Zeppelin. Those are the names I'm used to.
Yeah.
Van Halen, I couldn't imagine what I was about to see.
And so you went to a Van Halen gig without even knowing who they were, or any of the songs.
Yeah, no, I didn't know anything.
Totally blown away by that.
I didn't know anything, and we loved going to concerts, and they were so cheap. It was like $6 for a ticket, general admission ticket.
Yeah,
and just got to the front, and the curtain went up, and I saw for the first time Marshalls stacked up 3 high. And the speakers were exposed, so I'd never really seen that so much either. But it was, it was 18 cabinets times 4, so I'm I'm a little jet lagged. Sorry, guys.
That's fine.
But anyway, it
Yeah,
was like 48. I don't know. No, it was more than that. Anyway, a lot of speakers, and Eddie made a sound, and it was just like, couldn't believe it. So I was blown away right from the get-go. He jumped out, started playing, and it was like, what the hell is this?
Was that still in the first album, or had Van Halen 2 been released?
That was Van Halen 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were playing Stadium.
Yeah.
So I never heard anything off Van Halen 1. When I got into Van Halen 2, I discovered Van Halen 1, and that was even,
even more mind-blowing.
Yeah. So.
Was that, what was the first gig that you ever attended?
First gig was the Beach Boys.
Cool. That is a really cool first gig.
I don't know. I was probably a little ashamed to say in the beginning when I was a kid, because I was into rock, and Beach Boys were they were more pop and a surf band or whatever. But now I'm really happy that was the first one. I love the Beach Boys.
I'd be proud of that fact. Yeah. How old were you then?
I can't remember. I guess I was about 10, something like that.
So you can't remember much about that then,
I just remember seeing that we were really far from the stage, and the lights were really cool, and I remember smelling a sweet kind of smoke in the air.
Wonder what that could have been.
Yeah.
Going on to your first proper band, which was Lion.
Yeah.
How did that come about? There was a couple of Brits in the band.
One. Well, actually, there was a couple prior to me. They had they had some. What happened was, I'll make it a quick story. Mark Edwards, the drummer, was from Steeler. He had kind of put Steelers together around Yngwie Malmsteen, and then when Yngwie left and went to Alcatraz, he wanted a new band, and he found a singer in Cal Swan who was from Tamworth. I'm not sure exactly where that is.
Eastern Midlands.
Okay. And so Cal came to Los Angeles via Mark, and they wanted to put a band together. And they had, I think maybe in the beginning, they brought a couple guys. They brought Steve Gibbs. The guys were from Titan, actually. A couple guys from Titan, the band, which was one of the new wave of British
heavy metal. I struggle with that. New wave of British heavy metal bands. Yeah.
So those guys came over, and then they split, and then that's when they wanted to find. That's when they found me.
Right.
And I got a call and saying that they had come and seen me play, and that they really thought it would be great for the band, and most importantly, they had the next David Coverdale.
Right.
In Cal Swan. And I didn't know who David Coverdale was. I didn't. Okay. This was like 80.
Well, Whitesnake not big in the States by that time?
Not yet.
Right.
Not. And I mean, some people knew about him. I guess you could get the records, but it wasn't. They definitely hadn't popped yet, And this was 84, I guess. Yeah. And so it was just about Slide In and was just about to come out. Yeah. And that's the first song I ever heard from them. That was on the radio and stuff. But Cal had their whole back catalog, so he really was like, we had a song called Come On, and I was like, that's a random title, but of course Whitesnake had a song called Come On. And we had some grooves that were similar to stuff like Ready and Willing, and it was, Lion was very much influenced by bands like Whitesnake and Status Quo and Thin Lizzy, stuff like that, and a lot of that. I mean, I didn't know about Status Quo. I didn't know about Slade. I never heard of. He's like, yeah, Slade's amazing. It's like live.
So through Cal, you found out about a lot more British bands.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the Whitesnake stuff definitely stuck because it was really cool. It had that those kinds of chord progressions. It was a Slade song, "Lock Up Your Daughters," right?
Yeah.
So Lock Up Your
Daughters. That was one of the later Slade songs.
Okay. We covered that on a record, and I loved the chords. And then later, I recognized that those were similar chords to "Fool for Your Lovin'."
Right. Okay. I never noticed that. I shall check that out later on. Yeah.
So. It's a. Anyway, same progression.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Forgive me,
It's like you're jet lagged.
Yeah, we just got in day before yesterday, and our first gig, so we're getting our legs together, and
you played a 2.5-hour show last night, and then travelled up the country to sunny Blackpool. That's absolutely throwing it down.
It's kind of traditional. I mean, we arrived and it was sunny. I thought this is very different than what I expected for the UK at this time of year.
Yeah,
mind you guys had
made up for your expectations.
You guys had a blistering summer last year.
Yeah,
so that was cool.
Good last year. Download was it was amazing all week, and it usually rains at Download all 3 days. It usually rains. Last year the sun was shining all 3 days. It was great.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah. So if you get a sunny Download, we get a good summer.
There you go. Well, both times I played Download was
I've seen you twice at Download, and it rained both times.
Well, no, Whitesnake was
also with Dead Daisies. It rained.
Dead Daisies, it rained off and on. It wasn't too bad, but I've seen it when it's really raining there. But with Whitesnake, we played there, and I think it was 8 or 10. I can't remember when it was, but it was a nice sunset. It was really Def Leppard was coming on after us, but I remember it was sunny during our set. It was good.
It does happen sometimes in the UK.
Not today. It's freaking cold.
It's cold and raining, horrible. Right after Lion, did you do a couple of solo albums after Lion, or did it go straight into Bad Moon Rising?
Lion broke up because we were trying to get off of our record deal we weren't happy with. We had made a pretty good record in '87, and it was doing really well on MTV. We had a video that was doing great, and we'd done well in areas where we had a different record company, like in Japan. We did really well. Record company was good. But in the States it wasn't happening, and so we were trying to get off that deal, and somewhere along that line Mark Edwards got injured in a motorcycle accident, and so the band broke up. Meanwhile, I had some offers for other gigs and stuff, like Dio and a band called Slaughter, and
so by that time you'd made a name for yourself.
Maybe in LA, maybe, but not maybe. I mean, maybe a little bit in Japan or something. But
no, I mean you yourself, that people were coming to you to join the band now.
Yeah, and there was a scene still happening in LA, although it was kind of dying out a little bit. But I just wanted Lion to work, so I kind of blew everything off, and the one that would have been really cool, because I ended up there later, was Dio, but I just didn't. I met with Ronnie and we played, and it was going great. And
at what point of Dio's career was that? Before Craig Goldie?
No, that was right after Craig. That was right after Craig did Dream Evil. I'm not sure why he left or whatever, but they were getting a new guy, and we played, and he offered me the job, and I just wasn't ready to leave Lion. I went down there because a friend of mine, Grover Jackson, the guitar builder, said, "You need to go do this. You need to go down and check this out. This could be really cool for you." And I really liked Dio, but I just wanted my band, and I didn't want to let my bros down too. You know, if a lot of times when people get offers to leave, it leaves other people in the lurch. You know, and so I just wasn't ready to do that. I was probably 20 something, and I was more like 15 at age, and the way I acted. Right. So I turned that stuff down, but Mark got injured, and then then I got a call to do a record with the band Hurricane. Yeah. So that's how that transition happened, and worked with those guys on a record, and then I started doing some sessions. I did House of Lords,
right,
and then Cal and I took some of our songs that we had been holding back for our next record deal, and we started Bad Moon Rising with those songs, and we started with a Japanese record deal. So went from Lion to Hurricane to sessions, and then Bad Moon Rising.
But in the meantime, had you recorded solo albums?
After Bad Moon Rising did
Bad Moon Rising.
A couple. We did 1 or 2 records, I think, 2 records, and then I did a solo record.
And then Ronnie called you again.
Well, that was a little bit later. I went through a lot of different stuff, sessions and different things. But Ronnie called in 2001 and said that, Ronnie didn't call, actually Jimmy Bain and I had done a session together.
Right.
And he said that they had gotten Goldie back. They had Rowan Robertson for a while, then they got Goldie back, and they had Tracy G for a while. But Jimmy and we hit it off again. We just always hit it off. And he said, you should join, Ronnie's looking. And it took a few months before I actually heard from them. And finally, it was the day after Christmas, Jimmy said, let's go meet Ronnie at the pub. And Ronnie...
Where were you at the time?
I was in Los Angeles, and the pub was called the Robin Hood Pub. Is in the San Fernando Valley. But Ronnie loved he everything English, and he loved pubs. He loved to.
So it was a traditional English pub.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. So the first day I met him, when I was 10 years earlier, when I was auditioning, after we played like one song, and then he said, "Let's go to the pub." And we went to a place called Bristol Arms or something. I forget. But yeah, he sat there, and we had a beer, and he said, well, I'm making this new record, and I want to see if you maybe want to play a couple solos on it or whatever. I said, no, I'm not here to play a couple solos on it. I'm here to join the band and play all the guitars. And he says, okay, good, start tomorrow.
Fantastic. So was he actually testing you at that point?
Maybe he was, I don't know, but I just didn't want to waste any time. I had been waiting. I was interested to play with him, and Jimmy and I, like I said, we hit it off.
You hit it off with Jimmy, and obviously he was the he was the bass player right the way through Dio, wasn't he?
Yeah. He might. There was maybe one period when he took a little vacation from the band, but yeah, he was Ronnie's right hand guy. So joined Dio, and Ronnie, we hit it off too, and we had a great time in the studio. Ronnie I'll never forget, he would just sit there doing crossword puzzles all day long while I was playing guitar. And I'd say, hey, Ronnie, what'd you think of that? And he'd be like, what? Well, play it for me, He was really he was very intelligent. Yeah. And he could knock out a couple these like serious crossword puzzles in a few hours. So we did the record, Killing the Dragon. Yeah. And then we commenced on a tour that it was good timing because hard rock and classic rock was making a comeback, finally, after a lot of stuff in the 90s that was just kind of going all over the place. That kind of music came back, and it started right around that time. And our tour was a support tour for Deep Purple and Scorpions, so it was like perfect.
Wow, what a lineup!
Yeah, it was. When we started, sometimes it was still sunny out, and Ronnie would be like, it's very difficult for me to be evil with the sun out, But by the time, every day, that whole tour sold out. We were playing these outdoor, they call them sheds in the U.S. Yeah. I don't know what they call them here, but outdoor amphitheaters. Yeah. And they were sold out, but by the time we got halfway through our set, it was packed. And so by the time we got to the big songs like Holy Diver and Heaven and Hell and stuff like that, Rainbow in the Dark, it was packed. So Ronnie it was like he was just loving it. It was great.
Excellent. So how was you wrote a couple of songs? It's 2 or 3 songs on the album.
Yeah,
Killing the Dragon. Yeah. How was it writing with Ronnie?
Well, it was great. I showed up at the studio, and there was a board. Usually, when you're in the studio, people put a board up on the wall, and they name the songs, and they put categories like guitars, bass, drums, vocals, whatever, and then you check them off as you're done. But there are only 8 songs, and I said, that's going to be a kind of a quick record, right, guys? And Ronnie said, no, we need 2 more songs. So Jimmy and I we took a day off one day, and he and I wrote 4 things, and then we brought them to Ronnie, and Ronnie picked 2 of them, and then we finished them together as a band. It was Scream was the main one that we really liked. It was kind of simple and heavy and kind of fit into, it was good at that point because they had already written some stuff with Craig Goldie, hadn't been recorded yet, but I could see where the record was going, and then I could also see what it needed. And Jimmy and I both worked on songs like that. So we worked on a slow, heavy thing, and then we worked on a fast, driving number. And, yeah.
Cool. How long were you actually with Dio?
Basically, only that tour cycle, that album and tour cycle, it was a year long. And then I came back a couple times. after that.
Yeah, because you were with Whitesnake and then came back when Whitesnake had a break.
Yep.
You did some touring with Dio again, didn't you?
Yeah, Ronnie asked me to join a couple times to come back and join the tour, and then at the very end, we recorded the only other track I ever recorded with Ronnie. It was the last song he did. It's called Electra.
Right.
And that was just right before he found out he was sick.
Yeah.
So.
And that was the last song he recorded.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he, once he found out he was sick, he was 100%, trying to get that sorted, But it did, just like the doctors told him, 6 months basically to the day he passed, and they told him that, and he tried really hard to stretch that out. He did everything he could, and the doctors did everything they could, but it was just too late. It was too far advanced when he found out.
Awful. Absolutely awful.
Man, I still think about where I can picture him. I say this a lot in interviews and stuff. I can still picture him in his studio underneath his kitchen, and he'd just be sitting there for hours just creating. It was so cool to go over there. I'd go over there. Usually we'd start like 10 or something. We'd go and hang out in the kitchen. He'd always be playing sports radio. He loved the American sports. Yeah. Radio. Obviously, he didn't have European sports on this. He had this little, the guy was rich, but he had this little old transistor radio that had an antenna that was broken off and stuff. Brilliant. And living in this mansion, this English Tudor house that he lived in, stuck out like a sore thumb in that neighborhood. But it was perfect for him. It was up on a hill, and it had I don't know if you've ever seen pictures of it, but it had a spiral staircase with the I forget the tube, what it's called, but it was very traditional English, and we'd go up, have a coffee or a drink or whatever in the morning, and then we'd go down to the studio, and he'd sit there, and it was awesome, man. We'd just, for hours, just creating stuff, and a lot of it wouldn't be used, but we'd go through a process.
Yeah.
And that was actually after I had joined, when I wrote with him proper like that, and we did a few things that never really came out, but that was after I had left and gone to Whitesnake, and originally Whitesnake was just going to be 2 months. That's what David wanted to do. He just wanted to kind of reintroduce the band and get it going again. He had taken time off to raise his son, Jasper, and he was ready to get back out, make some noise.
Were you recommended to David, or did he come straight to you from knowing your work in Dio?
He was recommended by, I think, a guitar player that he had worked with on his solo stuff. A guy called Doug Bossy, I think, recommended me. But he's told me that some other people recommended me prior to that. But I'm not sure. But he said, well, first, it's a funny story, Mike, is that when we were on tour with Scorpions and Deep Purple, and later we toured with Purple a bunch in the summer, and we came to the UK and to Europe. But at one point, the Scorpions came to Ronnie and said that they were putting together a tour for 2003 with Whitesnake, including John Sykes and David getting together. And so me and Jimmy were like, "Yeah, that sounds good." And Ronnie was like, "Nope, we're not. I'm not going in to make a record. We're going to make a record, another record. I don't want to support anymore. And we've been supporting these guys. I want to get back to headlining a little bit." And so then I got a call from David's management, and he said that David wants to meet with you. And I said, and Ronnie had told me, he goes, "Look, people are going to be checking you out. This is a high-profile job, and you're doing well." So I said, "Well, I mean, I love working with you, Ronnie." So and David told me it was 2 months. So that's what I had initially signed up for. But 2 months of it just kept going and going and going, and eventually I had to choose, And me and David, he's like, as much as Ronnie was my bro, but Ronnie was like, it was like David was really like my big brother, and I was so into what he had already created, and what I knew I could bring something to that, that was...
You had huge boots to fill in Whitesnake.
That's why I'm wearing these big
Absolutely, you've got huge boots on there, but
pickle
in
boots.
Whitesnake, like you say, the last guitarist he had was John Sykes. Before that, Adrian Vandenberg. Before that, Steve Vai. Before that, Bernie Marsden and Mickey Moody.
Yeah.
They were huge boots to fill.
Yeah.
So did you feel the pressure?
No, and I didn't, because Ronnie groomed me. Ronnie put me through a lot of experiences that put me in a position where I was already pretty confident when I joined Dio, but I was confident enough to tell Ronnie, no, I'm not going to play 3 solos.
Yeah.
I'm going to either do all of it or none of it. And he's like, okay. But no, I just, touring with Ronnie really built up my confidence, and he made me play better. He pushed me really hard to, not that I didn't have more to learn, which I definitely did, I always do. But he got me to a point where it was like I was very, really confident, and when David called, I knew that was, I was in Lion with Cal. It was, when I met David, I was like, this is almost, some of his mannerisms are the same as Cal's, like Cal really was into him.
Yeah.
Like, we all get influenced by people. Like, I love Randy Rhoads, and I feel kind of kindred spirit to him. But, and that's how Cal was with Coverdale. So getting together with Coverdale, it fit like a glove, and he was really nice to me. He really wanted me. But I said, before I went to meet him, I said, well, you got Sykes. Why would you want me? Because I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna play second to Sykes. Obviously, you would if Sykes was in the band. And he says, no, I want you. And so I thought to myself, well, maybe the price was too high for Sykes. I don't know, but
he's just making a comeback, John Sykes.
I know. I saw him in January at the NAMM show. John Sykes is, him and David always have a little bit of a. They always had a little bit of a competition thing, but they were a great team, and David will be the first to admit it. And when he said I want you, I was like, that's perfect. I'll be able to fit right in. And then we got Reb, and that was great. And with Tommy and Marco and Tim Drury on keyboards, it was a really good lineup to kind of reintroduce the band. I really wanted to make sure that we were trying to get back a little bit to the bluesy side.
I was going to ask what it was like playing because you, like I mentioned earlier, you're a bluesy guitar player. You rock out, but you're a bluesy guitar player as well. Do you prefer playing the blues, the early Whitesnake, the Mickey Moody, Bernie Marsden type songs, or more the John Sykes, Steve Vai, Adrian Vandenberg, 1987 songs?
It was all good. Of course, all guitar players love the riff of Still the Night. So that's like when Joel Hoekstra came to me when I first met him, when I was in the band. He goes, "What's it like to play Still the Night?" I'm like, "It's great, man." He goes, "Wow, man, you play it every night." And little did we both know that he would be in the band.
End up doing it,
but which I'm really happy for him, But I loved it all. I loved playing the song "Ready and Willing." That was and Slow and Easy, and some of that stuff that also Mel Galley wrote some stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that early stuff really was fun to play because I had already heard it, and but it was always a weird thing. Like, we'd have a set list in the States that was geared around the 87 and 85 stuff, and then in Europe we'd sprinkle in a little bit more of the older stuff. But we'd talked about it a lot, but we never delved as deep as I now in hindsight wished we would have to the older stuff.
Some of the older stuff is absolutely, because that's when I first got into Whitesnake. During the older period, I loved the Bernie Marsden, Mickey Moody period. Me
too, and I wanted to keep that intact and get more playing slide and doing stuff like that when I got in the band, and then later when we started writing, we eventually got into a good kind of hybrid thing that kind of it touched on the 87-ish type stuff, but it also was kind of had a newer thing to it, but it was also blues based, like some of the songs on Good to Be Bad, for example, were more bluesy, I guess, than what was on Slip of the Tongue, for example. So it was cool. It was good.
Did your time with Whitesnake just run its course?
Well, not really. it only ran its course because I had been so dedicated to David that I kind of let some other aspects of my personal life go, and that being marriages. So I had it's not David's fault at all. It's my fault.
It's the industry's fault.
I was 1,000% Whitesnake, and David and I spent a lot of hours together, and I just left my first wife. I got divorced I think it was like the first or second year I was in Whitesnake, and then my second wife, who I had a son with, and I just left her alone too much, and she just got burned out. I didn't realize how hard it is with a little kid, raising a little kid by yourself. It's very stressful. It's very frustrating, and can be a little demeaning to you because you just feel like, okay, my husband's off playing with Whitesnake all over the world, and I'm here. And she was really good about it, but she just needed a break, and we kind of started drifting apart. And so once we got divorced, we had actually kind of split up prior to the last Whitesnake tour, and I said to her, look, you got to stay, because I can't be at home and take care of my boy. I want to take care of him, but I can't do it now because I promised David I'm doing this tour, and we're supporting a record. We were supporting a live record, I think. And so then when the tour was over in 2013, David said, I'm not sure what the plan is, so we'll just kind of take some time and see what happens. And I got this offer to play in Vegas at this theater with a bunch of guys like Robin McCauley from Michael Schenker, and Howard Leese from Heart, and Hugh McDonald, Jay Shellen, who I had played in a band with. And it was basically a full-on rock show cover band with all these guys.
So it was a residency in Vegas.
Right, called Raiding the Rock Vault. It's still going, by the way. I do it once or twice a year. I'll still go over there and play. But it was great because you just basically, we were living, me and my son and my girlfriend were living in this 2-bedroom suite in a hotel, and I could basically go down anytime I wanted and play through my live rig. And I was with my boy all the time. Perfect. And so then David called and said, hey, I've got this idea to do the Purple record. And I was like, great, I'll start flying up, and so I'd come up, but I could only really, they wouldn't let me have a lot of time off because they were building that show up. And so, but the time I was off, I went up to David and we started banging through the demos of what was the Purple record. And it just, the bottom line is that I just I couldn't commit to being there full time anymore, at least at that time. I needed to be with
your son.
Be with my boy and make sure that my girlfriend wasn't left alone. I didn't want to scare her away. Although my boy is amazing, I didn't want her to be like, he's just getting me as a babysitter or something. It was not the case. It just happened that I wanted him with me. Normally, kids go with their mom, and now he's with his mom sometimes too. But at the time, she needed to go and travel,
a break,
clear out. So I told David, look, I gotta tap out, and
he must have understood.
He, the way that it went down was a little bit, I think, frustrating for him because, it was my decision, and he's the boss. It's always been Coverdale's Whitesnake, so he's used to making the decisions and the calls, but I could tell he was getting a little bit irritated by my schedule, and I was, I was making really good money doing the residency thing, and just I wanted to be settled. So I told him, and it was I didn't really talk to him that much, and we would text once a year at Christmas or whatever. But now we're on a much friendlier
terms again.
Yeah, good. I mean, I've always loved him. It was just just got a little weird in the beginning, but of course we still respected each other. We were both really proud of the work we had done together.
Well, talking about your loyalty, I remember you telling me last year that you turned down Guns N' Roses because you were still with David.
Well, I turned down an audition for Guns N' Roses. I don't know if I would
have got the job.
I don't know. It was back when they were doing. They had DJ Ashba.
Yeah.
They got DJ Ashba to do the gig, but it was Dizzy that called me, and Dizzy's my bro, and he called me, and I was sitting next to David, and Dizzy goes, hey Doug, you want to, we're looking for a guy to kind of do the lead parts a lot. We've got Richard Fortus, we've got Bumblefoot, and we want somebody that's going to play more the bluesy Slash style. So I was like, yeah, but do you know him in Whitesnake, right? And he goes, yeah, I know you're. I go, I saw you. We were in Chicago. You came to the gig. He goes, yeah, I was. He had a couple drinks that night. So he goes, I remember seeing you, but I didn't. I go, yeah, I'm in Whitesnake, dude. So I'm not. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. But I told Dizzy, I go, I put a lot of effort into this, and we're in the middle of making our first full record together. It's the first Whitesnake record for a long time, and I am not going anywhere. And he's like, I totally get it, understood. And so, and then David's like, Douglas, who was that? I'm like, that was the keyboardist from Guns N' Roses asking me to join the band or to audition. And he's like, of course you made the right decision.
It's a very good impression of David's voice.
I could do better. Sorry, DC, I could do better.
He has he's got a very English voice. It's not an accent, but he's got a very English voice.
He's still a proper gent.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, he's got a new record out, which I'm really excited about. I think everybody is excited about.
Yeah, they've released 2 singles so far.
Yeah.
Which are absolutely awesome.
Yeah, so it's really good for the band, it's good for the industry, it's good for everybody. The more that, that Whitesnake does well is good for the scene that we're all into.
Yeah.
So
it's still got Joel and Reb.
Yeah, same lineup as the Purple.
Yeah.
Same lineup, and Tommy. Yep, of course, Tommy and Michael Devin.
Yeah.
Kind of the secret weapon. Oh, actually, and Macaulay, I forget his last name, but the keyboardist player is a buddy of mine, and he's amazing. So they're getting ready to set off. They're in rehearsals right now, from what I see online.
Excellent.
I saw a picture of David and George Lynch and Michael, and it was funny because the last time I remember seeing George at a rehearsal was when I was in Whitesnake, and George came to a rehearsal, and at that time Brian Tishy was playing drums.
Right.
George comes in the room and he's smoking a cigarette, and I go, George, you got to put that out, man. DC's coming. He's going to kill us if he smells that smoke. And of course, the door opens. God bless this house and all in it. And it's like, fuck. So he took the cigarette and gave it to Tishy, and Tishy chucked it in his cowbell and put his hand over it. And George is sitting there going like this. And then it was funny because David left after a few minutes and went to the other room where I think some of the other guys were working on some other stuff. And we got the smoke out of there, and we got the cigarette out of there, and George left, DC left. And then DC left to go somewhere, and he's a very happy driver. Like, he'll just be like, oh, look at that over there, and he bumped into George's car on the way out of the parking lot. Wow. So the next day, George said, he went to David and said, hey, DC, listen, you hit my car. And David, what? What do you must be mistaken, And he's like, no, it's I think it was on video or something, it was David bumping right into George's car. Right. So they got it fixed and stuff. But it was just funny,
Excellent.
So there they are at Mates rehearsal in Los Angeles. Sorry, I just gave it away where they're at. So yeah, it was an amazing experience to work with David and learn so much from him about a lot of things, and he really is my big brother. And one day we'll hang out and have a laugh about everything. But right now he's doing his thing, I'm doing Dead Daisies and Burning Rain.
Yeah, we'll come on to Burning Rain a bit. So Dead Daisies, did you get the call from Marco, because you worked with him in Whitesnake?
Yeah. Did
you get the call from Marco to join Dead Daisies?
Yeah, I had gotten a call from Marco about filling in because Richard had gotten injured in a motorcycle accident. And they had two months of dates at the end of 2015. But I was touring with Glenn Hughes actually at that time.
Yeah.
And I had committed to Glenn to do. It was actually, I just had 2 shows left in Japan. But I committed to Glenn, and I was kind of part of the bill a little bit. So I just didn't want to. It just would have been bad form again to cut out. So I just told the Dead Daisies I can't do it. And then they got somebody, and then they called me later and asked about, do I want to join the band and do a record? And I thought, that sounds great, man. That would be really fun. They're all buddies of mine.
Yeah.
And at the time, Tishy was in the band. He is one of the greatest drummers out there. And
you've known Krabby for a long time,
since we were kids.
Yeah.
Since around 1979, we met.
That is a long time.
Yep. Yeah. He was the singer of a band called Fragile that my friend played bass for, Jerry Best, who was in Lion as well. Right. He played bass in that band, so I met. They would rehearse at Jerry's house back in the late 70s, and I met John, and he was super cool, and I'd known, we had kept in touch in LA. He had a band, and it was at the same time Lion, and then he got the Scream going. Then he was in Motley when I was doing Bad Moon Rising, and so I met David Lowy, and David and I talked on the phone for. I didn't meet him. We talked on the phone for several hours and discussed about what the situation was, and he just seemed like a great dude. I really liked him, and I really liked playing with him. His guitar style is very different than mine, and I love what he does. If I'm going to play with another guitar player, it works really well. Although I love playing with Reb too, but Reb and I always would. Sometimes, when you got two lead guitar players, you step on each other's toes.
Exactly. But David doesn't play lead at all, does he?
He does a little bit, but not too much.
Yeah.
But it's not so much. It's the thing is that I learned one of the things I learned in Whitesnake was it's really cool when you have two different styles. And me and Reb did have different styles, but it took us a little while to gel. But once we did, it was really cool. Like it probably is right now for them. I haven't seen them with this lineup, but I'm sure it's similar now because Reb's got his thing and Joel does his thing. But when I'm working with David, his style is a very innocent, youthful approach, and with a lot of attitude. And I wanted some of that. I wanted to learn some of that as well as add to it with the bluesy side.
Yeah, I mean, the last time I saw you was when you headlined Hard Rock Hell Festival in November last year. I've seen you probably 6 or 7 times. That was the best I've seen you. Yeah, that was the best I've seen the Dead Daisies.
Good. Well, we always. That's one thing about David Lowy that's really amazing. I learned a lot from him as well. I do learn from him is that he runs the band like a business. It's like he's a very successful businessman on the side. And so he runs the band the same way. And at first I was a little bit not sure how to take that, but then I realized we're making really good progress, faster than normal. And one of the things we would do is just kind of every day we would discuss the set list, the ins and outs, and like a whole band meeting. And it really helps you to focus and center and do stuff. Because prior to that, you would just show up or with David, I'd kind of help him with the set list sometimes, or he'd ask me, "What do you think about this?" And then he would figure it out, and then the tour manager would print it out, and then you'd look at it, it'd be on the wall, and you go, "Okay, that's the set list." Pretty much know what we're doing, but if you go through it point by point, you can even be tighter. So that's what Dead Daisies does every day,
and that's all David's idea.
Yeah, he's just like, look, this means a lot to me that we discuss what we did, what went wrong yesterday, or what we could do better today, and it's turned into be something that really would ground me. Like now I'm here with Burning Rain, and we're shooting from the hip, running by the seat of our pants, and we're making up a set list at the last minute. I'm like, wait, we got to tape it on the wall and do a briefing. I can't do a set. Like
that's the way you have to work now.
Well, I like it better. Yeah. Last night was our first night doing this, and we just kind of did a run and gun, and it was fine. But there's only 2 of us. When you got 5 or 6 guys, it's good to plan ahead a little bit.
Let's go on to Burning Rain then.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're still with Dead Daisies, but you've taken the rest of 2019 off.
Actually, no. Dead Daisies is going to kick up in a little bit. I don't know exactly when, but Dead Daisies is my day job. That's my main gig. But Burning Rain is a passion thing that we've been doing it for 20 years, and so Keith and I, we basically released the record around the Dead Daisies schedule so that we could have time to promote it and do what we're doing. And
so it's not the rest of the year then that Dead Daisies are taking off?
No. Dead Daisies
2 or 3 months, something like that?
We got some things up our sleeve, but then there's some other breaks coming up where I can pick it up with Burning Rain again.
Right, cool.
So, but this is great. I mean, right now we're here for a month doing acoustic promo and
tour around Europe.
Yeah, and we would have done the whole band, but we signed on for a festival, the Frontiers Festival, at the end of this month, and they preferred that we didn't do full band gigs before that festival.
Yeah.
So this is a good way to kind of just meet people again, reintroduce the band, and give it a shot for the first time,
Let's go right back to the start of Burning Rain then, because your first album came out 20 years ago, over 20 years ago now.
Yeah.
You released a couple of albums within a couple of years, and then nothing until, when was it, 2013?
2013, yeah.
2013?
Yep, that's right around the time when Keith had been working with Ronnie Montrose first. He got the call to work with Ronnie Montrose, and then I joined Dio, and so we were both doing separate things, and then Whitesnake took me away for 12 years. But during the time in Whitesnake, I was asked at some point during the beginning of Whitesnake to do another Burning Rain record, and Keith and I just couldn't have time to write and get it together. But finally, we got a batch of songs together that we thought could be good for the Epic Obsession record. And then the key was how are we going to get this recorded? Because I'm busy with Whitesnake. So basically, I'd work with Whitesnake Monday through Friday, and then when I could, I'd fly home on Friday night, be with the family during the daytime, and then I'd at night record with Keith on the weekends, and then go back to David Monday.
Okay.
And then periodically, I'd get a week off or something from Whitesnake. Maybe David had something or whatever. And there was one time when I said, David, I need a week off to mix this record. I got to get it done. And then once it came out, then again, it's been 6 years. So.
But with this record, it seems like it's the first time you've had time to push it, really, because, like you say, you've had day jobs previously that you had to concentrate on.
Yeah.
Now you've got the time to go out on the road to promote it with a month-long acoustic tour. So it seems now that you can concentrate. It's your baby that you.
That's right. We want
to get out there.
We made an effort to make this record, and I wanted to show that I wanted to come over to Europe and the UK, and we'll be doing some weekend stuff in the States. We had a record release party last week in Las Vegas where we played as a full band.
How did that go?
It was great. It was our first gig, so it was some butterflies and stuff, but it went really well. Great turnout. It was packed. And
how long has this lineup of Burning Rain been together?
Let's see. It's now 4, 5, 7:30. No, it's we got Bloss at the middle of last year, I guess, and Brad around this. Brad first, and then Bloss came in. Bloss I met from the residency. He took over the drum job. He had been doing Blue Man Group,
all right,
and just living in Vegas, raising his kids, and then he got the Rock Vault gig, and that's when I really hung out with him and heard him play. And then he took off to Trans-Siberian Orchestra at the end of last year.
Cool.
But I love his playing. He's incredible. He live on the record, everything. He's amazing. He's potentially legendary. I mean, he's like a Tommy Aldrich type of legendary.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm not going to say. I don't want his head to go giant right now, but I feel he's amazing.
You've worked with some absolutely amazing drummers, though. Like you said, Tommy Aldrich, Brian Tichy, Dean Castronovo. You worked with some amazing drummers.
I know. I love it. I've been so lucky. That's what I was talking about. And even prior to that, I worked with Carmine.
Yeah.
I jammed a few times with Vinny.
So he was still in. Vinny was still in Dio
at the beginning when I first jammed with him.
When you first joined.
But yeah, so Bloss, and then we got Brad prior to that, and Keith had worked with Brad. Maybe it was I think he'd done some Montrose gigs, but Brad had been in Y&T for several years after Phil Kennemore passed away.
Yeah.
And Brad is like, he is the glue of the band right now. He's like the cat that takes care of everything and makes sure everybody's on time and does everything they're supposed to do. And Bloss is very chill, as you can tell from. He's a really really down to earth guy, very nice, and just is quiet until he gets behind the drums, and then he just terrorizes them.
Yeah. And
then I like to joke, me and Keith, he's burning and I'm the rain. Like, he's the fire guy, I'm the water guy. So when he starts burning, I start putting him out, and when I'm starting to cool off, he tries to boil me up, And we have that relationship. We have that rub, me and Keith, But 20 years, so it's something there,
So what's the writing process been like for Face the Music? Have you written together? Because do you live in different parts of the States?
No. I'm only... Bloss lives in Las Vegas, and actually Bloss and Brad didn't get to write on Face the Music because it was done during Dead Daisies breaks.
So yourself and Keith have written everything?
We did. But on the next record, I would love to write with everybody equally, because it's another thing I learned from Dead Daisies, that when everybody's involved, you get more.
Yeah.
It's really cool. It took me a while to get to that point, because I was so focused on trying to get it exactly how I want it that you feel like you got it all figured out, but you don't. You need other people to bounce these things off of. And it worked really good with me and David, because he would have something and I'd work on it and then bring it back to him, and then he'd work on it, or I'd bring him music periodically. And actually I brought him a lot of music, and I would just keep throwing things at him until I like that. I'll have that one, or whatever. But with David and I, we'd focus in a cave for months at a time, and then we developed this record through demos. And the demos were actually a lot of times even more, I like the demos even better than the records sometimes. But getting the Dead Daisies, it's a situation where everybody works together at every aspect, and when you write, we'd sit down with everyone playing guitar and we'd come up with, hey, I got this riff. We could do. Why don't you try it in a different key, or let's add this part, or whatever. I would never come in with a full song, because it's really nice to develop it from the ground zero with everybody. And Bloss plays guitar, Brad plays guitar.
And in Dead Daisies, John's is a great guitar player.
He's a great guitar player.
Dean's an excellent singer.
Dean can play guitar too.
Can he?
And Brian Tissue is a great guitar player.
Right.
So when I joined the Dead Daisies, the first day, it was funny. It was like the five of us and the producer, Marty Fredrickson, all sitting down with a guitar, and I was just like, this is too much. I don't know what to focus on. So Marty broke us up into groups of two, me and Brian, and then Marco and John, and then David and Marty, and everybody was, the task of the day was to write 2 songs. So just write 2 songs, and then we'd get together and we'd pick the ones we liked, then we'd break them apart as a band and rewrite them. Yeah. And that's how we did the first Make Some Noise record, the one I did with them. And then same way when we did Burn It Down. So for the future, looking forward for Burning Rain, I would love to do it that way, because it's really cool, because everyone gets invested in the ideas, and if something's not good enough, you find out,
Yeah.
You go, it's like, hey, it's obvious that this idea, it doesn't matter where it came from, because by that time everyone's got their 2 cents in on it. So you have no problem letting it go, and we can revisit it down the road. But right now we got this batch. The way
you're saying you work now reminds me of how Monty Python worked, because they split themselves into 2s.
Yeah.
I can remember how there was 6 members, I think, of Monty Python, and they split themselves into 2s, and that's how they worked. And then they swapped over the work with another couple, and they just worked on each other's work then.
Yeah. Well, it's good, because, like I say, everyone gets into each idea, and everyone tries to make each idea the best it can be. So with this new Burning Rain record, I'm really happy about it. I think it's got some really cool stuff.
Absolutely.
And
it is a great record.
But
congratulations on it, because it is an absolutely outstanding record.
Thanks. But what I was thinking, you know, how much better it would be with those two guys' involvement in the writing process, because it's a step further, you know, that you can take something. So, but anyway, we'll get there.
Yeah. Did you have any influences on writing this record? Because to me, there's a few songs on there that are very Aerosmith influenced.
Yeah, it's not on purpose, but I'm, as long as something happens naturally, then I'm cool with it. Yeah. I could never sit down and go, hey, let's try and sound like Whitesnake, or let's try and sound like Aerosmith, or whatever. It would basically happen that I would start playing something like the song Lorelei, for example.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's one of my favourite songs. Yeah,
me too. I really love it. And the key to that song is it's got this double harmony melody that is kind of reminiscent of Kings and Queens by Aerosmith.
Yeah.
And I didn't really think about it until, you know, the harmony went on there. And then I was like, you know, it just happened, you know. It's like that's not on purpose.
Yeah,
I don't think there's no way Keith could have taken those chords that I gave him and said the chords don't sound like that. So it just came on accident. He came up with the melody and then put a harmony, and then it's like, wow, that's kind of got a Kings and Queens flavor, but it's much heavier, and lyrically it's something a little different. So as long as it happens naturally like that, I'm cool with it. If something sounds blatant, like, you know, if you said, hey, you got a song that sounds like Walk This Way, and it's clear that, you know, it's got the same groove, kind of a same riffy guitar part, then, you know, that maybe wouldn't be something I'd be so excited about.
Yeah, like I said, if it's by accident and then you kind of notice it later on, you're cool with that.
There's a few, I mean, there's some Aerosmith influences. Keith, I think, brings a little more of the Aerosmith side. Me, there's some Whitesnake influences, or you know, Deep Purple things, or definitely Zeppelin. I love, you know, I mean, stuff like Shelter has a Zeppelin vibe.
Well, you've recorded Kashmir with Burning Rain, haven't you?
Yeah, we did it as a bonus track, I think, for the first record.
Yeah, he did an excellent job, and I mean, Kashmir should be one of those songs that nobody even attempts to cover, but he did a great job.
You know what? I want to play that too live when we do it as a band, because it's really different. It's a bit heavier than the original, but it's kind of cool, and I love the way Keith sings it. Keith sounds amazing on the new record. He really is. Lyrically, I really love the direction that he went in. I asked him, like, let's, you know, he would, when we would jam, I'd play a riff. I actually can't even play right now. My hands are frozen.
It's cold in here, yeah.
But I'd play a riff like Revolution, and he would kind of scat something, and he scatted something, and it had a political vibe to me a little bit, and I was like, go with that. That's cool. You know, of course we can do songs about, you know, relationships and sex and all that stuff, but let's do something different, you know, on this one. So we went in some different directions, and I really love what he did. 99% of the lyrics on Burning Rain stuff is Keith. There's been a couple times when I would dabble, or I'd get a, you know, a hard on to say, like, I want this. I really love the way you said this, and he's like, man, but I can say it cooler. I'm like, no. It's how you did it was great. Just leave it. So he did a great job on it, and he sounds awesome. And all the guys did really well. So
excellent. Well, Doug, because it's so cold in here, you need to stay warm, don't you, for your gig tonight?
It is. The only thing is my big boots is the only thing that's warm.
Yeah, so you need to go somewhere and get your hands warm again. So it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.
See?
I know. I thought my hands were cold. They're even colder. Doug, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, guys.
Come down and face the